This is the definition of education, the most basic definition of education. Education is not about books, they are instruments. It's not about exams, it's not about just rattebaji. The most profound definition of education itself is education means knowledge of the self. These are two mantras, Namaste and be it Sanskrit, Sarvetra Sukhina Santu Bhavatu Sabba Mangalam. Marathi will be Sarvanna Sarvakal Sarva Shubhecha. What I have spoken in last couple of minutes itself is Indian knowledge system, the greatest discovery of human existence, greatest discovery of all times, the greatest discovery across all civilizations, all cultures, all branches of knowledge, all languages, all everything. My dear friends, Advaita is the greatest discovery. The sound A, U and Ma together making O. And world over, there are researches going on the phonetic quality of Om and how even the pronunciation of Om affects us, even at material level. Correct scientific pronunciation of Om affects the brain, the heart, the lungs, kidneys, everything.
Now I request Advocate Ashok Palani Sir and Sunita Ma'am to felicitate Dharmadhikari Sir. Thank you so much, dignitaries. On historical foundation of IAS and its relevance in higher education in India. Sir, the dais is yours.
All my dear friends. And in this all, when I say all, it means the entire Deccan Education Society, about which the kind of respect I have cannot even be stated in words. Everyone must have this deep respect. That is because what is at the foundation of Deccan Education Society is a deep commitment to Bharatiya Sanskriti, the fundamental contributions of Bharatiya Sanskriti which are global, and that Bharatiya Sanskriti represented in the personalities and lives of Lokmanya Tilak and Gopal Ganesh Agarkar and Vishnu Shastri Chiplunkar, all who were dedicated to this nation and to sort of rebuild the whole Bharat. They dedicated their lives and began by building Deccan Education Society. So what a great legacy. It is that deep respect that I am talking about. So when I say all my dear friends, it means all concerned faculty, all dean, everyone. I address them as my friends. In addition to this deepest respect for Deccan Education Society, I also have a direct connection since my childhood. My primary education, I am always happy to say, my primary education has been in Marathi medium. I am deeply grateful for my parents for registering me in a Marathi medium primary school, and that was Naveen Marathi Shala of Deccan Education Society. And I will edit my time on sort of autobiography, but all I will say is my association with Deccan Education Society continues, so much so that it's a direct association even with the Law College, now named after Navalmal Firodia ji. I am happy to tell you. I hope so are most of you to hear that my son did law from this college. And of course, now he is handling entire Chanakya Mandal Pariwar along with this young team. Some of them are already present here for this program. So, when I was invited for this seminar, I happily accepted this invitation as my duty to be done with pleasure, Ananda, and I have to mention Marathi words because there is no depth in that English word. Marathi word is Gharatla Kam. This one I look upon as Gharatla Kam. So with all Ananda, I have to be here. Therefore, I am sharing happily with you that actually last night I flew over from Delhi only to be with you this morning. After this, I am going back to Delhi. I will not again spare time, waste time explaining why I am based in Delhi for currently 4 months. I will save time, I will edit that. That is also sort of the explanation I owe to you. That's my idea of accountability. That once I accept the invitation, I am accountable to those who invite me. I am accountable to all of you, and I consider it my duty to be transparent in behavior. What I am saying is, it is because I flew past midnight that I could not remain present for this inaugural part. And knowing this is going to happen, I had asked my faculty to contact and please convey this. I will do my best to reach as early as possible. So please bear with me. Thank you for bearing with me. I also hope my coming a bit late did not disturb the program. And I'm happy to meet you also, sir. And in good time, I would like to also know more about the university that you are running. I look forward to even visiting and learning from the university that you are running. So, my thanks and my best wishes for all of you. Then I always start any dialogue with 2 mantras. I call them mantras. Mantra. Mantra itself is a beautiful word in Indian knowledge system. That language emerges from sounds. And I know I'm going to spare whatever is limited time even further talking about it. But our great ancestors understood and studied these sounds. And how do they get organized to become a language? Eventually, in the process of evolution and development of human civilization, when the script emerges, our ancestors scientifically knew that script is not the language, script is only the symbolic representation of the sounds from our throat. And that those sounds themselves have a certain strength. I know in about 3 to 5 minutes I am going to come back to this point. This has been deeply studied. And therefore, a certain combination of sounds spoken in a particular way and the sounds arranged in a particular sequence assume a quality of a mantra. That their phonetic quality makes an impact not only on our ears, but there is an impact on the functioning of the brain and blood circulation system, the way heart functions, lungs function, digestive systems function. Sound affects us. And it is those well organized sounds that come to be known as mantra. Having understood this, I have made it a point to mention these two mantras normally at the start of anything that I want to share with all of you. The very first mantra is a single word, and this beautiful Bharatiya sign and the word that follows, Namaste. The single word, Namaste. Again, true to our style, true to Indian knowledge system, this single word has a deep meaning. And to that also, Indian knowledge system attributes a name, and that name is Sutra Shaili. Sutra Shaili. So what is a sutra? Even English language has now accepted this word sutra. Sutra is a principle, sutra. But what does Sutra Shaili means? The style. It means barely in 1, 2 or at the most 3 words, but summarizing something very deep within those 2, 3 words. Each one of us, each one of those sutras can become a subject of deeper research, even PhDs, and minimum 500-page books. That is called sutra. And a sutra shaili, expressing deep meaning in barely 1, 2, 3 words. So eventually, depending on how time permits, depending on how even my talk is going to shape, I may share with you 4016 sutras that Maharshi Panini codified into this world-class, all-time great treatise on languages. And it's all languages, mind you, not only Sanskrit. It is all. It's the very foundational 4016 sutras of the very phenomenon called languages. So Maharshi Panini wrote Ashtadhyayi, and those are 4016 sutras, each one of which is and can and must become a subject of deeper research, including possible PhDs and the latest scientific techniques applied to explain those sutras. Or Maharshi Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, or the entire Vedic philosophy summarized in less than 200 sutras by Maharshi Vyasa. So the ones that are known as Vyasa Sutra, also called Brahma Sutra. The entire gamut of knowledge that may run into literally thousands and thousands of pages. Maharshi Vyas, that is our traditional dharana, manyata, that to make it simple, he summarized it in Brahma Sutra / Vyasa Sutra also. And you will also see the normal style. It is always a dialogue between Guru and Shishya. So it is the mind of the Shishya, the disciple, which is supposed to be inquisitive. And unless the disciple has a question, the Guru doesn't talk. You take a look at all our treatises in, say, Sanskrit or Prakrit or almost all Bharatiya languages, including Marathi, Hindi, etc. You will see that there is always first a question by the Guru, Shishya, the disciple, and then Guru begins to explain. Until then, even Adi Shankara told us, Gurostu Maunam Vyakhyanam. What a beautiful line, that even Mauna, the silence of my Guru, is worth a lecture. Gurostu Maunam Vyakhyanam. And only when the curious, inquisitive, sensitive, intelligent mind of the disciple/student has questions, then pursuit of knowledge begins. Having a question means I am opening my mind to receive the knowledge. And therefore, the disciple asks the question, Ki Gurudev, please explain so and so to me. And then, with this Sutra Shaili, the Guru, the Master, the Pandit begins to explain that knowledge. So it could be, say, Atha Yoganushasanam, the first sutra of Maharshi Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. And then he also defines entire yoga in 2 or 3 words. Yogas Chitta Vritti Nirodha. What a beautiful definition. I can tell you, this single sutra, even to explain the summary of what it means, there could be a fascinating 2-hour lecture. Just 2-3 words. Atha Yogas Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Definition of yoga. Right now I am indicating at that beautiful Sutra Shaili. Because of this one word, the Sutra, and a deeply, profoundly meaningful, therefore, mantra. The single word, Namaste. Because, my dear friends, that single word Namaste means the divinity in me salutes the divinity in you. And if you take a careful look at even this sentence, Namaste, that single word means divinity in me salutes divinity in you. You go deeper, then you will see that what it basically means is that there is one single divinity, the one single ultimate truth. Call it Brahma, call it Shiva, call it Vishnu, or worship it in form of Vithala or Lakshmi or whatever. We have understood thousands of years ago that deeper you go, the basic truth of existence is one. Entire universe, or if now there are many such universes, even all of it emerges from that one single truth, and you are that truth. That divinity, Brahma, Ishwar, is everywhere. Everything is Ishwar. That Ishwar, you are that Ishwar. So the principle Tattvamasi, but we need to find it out. That is called knowledge of the self. This is the definition of education, the most basic definition of education. Education is not about books, they are instruments. It's not about exams, it's not about just rattebaji. The most profound definition of education itself is education means knowledge of the self, capital S. Our Bharatiya word is even deeper because it is Atma Jnana, Atma Gyan, apne aap ko pehchano. That is education. And once you do that, you will understand that you are that same divinity that permeates, that is everywhere. So the realization of Tattvamasi, single word Namaste. Look how beautiful it is. The deep meaning translated into day-to-day behavior. That it becomes a part of our social behavior and normal manners and etiquettes, that we just meet each other genuinely with this and say Namaste. Divinity in me salutes the divinity in you. What it means is there is one single divinity, truth. Ekam sad vipraha bahudha vadanti. This is from Rigveda. That truth is one. Knowledgeable people call it with different names. And because different names are given, or because that truth is understood, pursued, worshipped in various forms, does not make us different or especially enemies of each other. These are only different paths which finally lead to that same truth. That ekam, one, satya, truth. And that tad satyam, tad ekam, tad adbhutam. The description is that one truth, that is truth. That is one, tad ekam and tad adbhutam. It is fascinating, and you are that truth. And that you also is described as Sat, Chit and Ananda Swarup. That every one of us, our real existence is Sat, it is truth. Chit is a beautiful term again. That single term may need explanation for over 2 hours as a summary. Chit will mean the energy, the divine element. And Ananda Swarup, it means your true nature is bliss. Bliss, so truth, existence and bliss. You are Tattvamasi, and your real self is Satchidananda Swarupa. But we need to understand that, we need to look into ourselves. That is education. I see all of it expressing in that single word, Namaste. In that, and even now I need to tell you that for want of my limitation on my time, I am still being very brief. Single word, Namaste, Sutra Shaili. Then, anyone who begins to understand oneness, Advaita, oneness, the deeper we go in analysis, various branches of knowledge, and it may be a starting point of our pursuit of knowledge, but these are only various branches of knowledge. They are not silos, they are actually interconnected, they are interdependent. Each one of us may have one's own starting point in the field of knowledge. It could be geography, it could be history, it could be social sciences, or it could be biology, physics, chemistry. But each one, deeper we go, we begin to see these interconnections. Then we begin to understand that not only that various branches of knowledge are interconnected, in fact they are interdependent. That in fact, you can't even understand history unless you understand science. And you can't understand science unless you understand, say, history. Same goes for mathematics, geography and various branches. In the end, each one's journey to the center of knowledge is from one's own starting point, but leading us to understand interconnections, interdependencies. Finally, we realize that it's not only interconnected or interdependent, finally it is one. Deeper we go, we head for the core, then we realize that it is one. And that one is everywhere, within us also. Then anyone who understands that Jiva and Shiva are one and the same. Jivo Brahmaiva na Paraha, Advaita philosophy that Adi Shankara further explained. It is there in original Vedas. Then anyone who understands that all of us are material expressions of the same divine energy. Okay? Why would anyone have enmity for anyone? One who understands this, why would there be a sense of separateness, a sense of division, and therefore say enmity or hatred or violence? The one who understands Advaita will spontaneously pray for everyone's welfare. Everyone's welfare. That it is the same divinity in you and me and each one of us that makes us one. Once you begin to understand that, your natural prayer is Sarvetra Sukhina Santu. Whether it is in Sanskrit, whether it is in Prakrut, as Buddha Mahavir taught us, it is Bhavatu Sabba Mangalam. Or because I get to travel all over India, and of course not only that I think, etc., I am saying I know, I have understood, I have realized that India is one, that one nation with capital N, and with our mind-boggling diversity, which in fact we welcome, we respect, because that diversity doesn't divide us. We have understood thousands of years ago that it's only the diversity of external manifestation. At its root, we are all one. What I'm saying is, since I get to travel to different parts of our nation, and I think of entire India as one nation, so all people are our people, or languages are our languages, from say Tamil and Malayalam and Kannada and Telugu to Gujarati, Bengali, Hindi, Punjabi, all sorts of, they are our languages. What I'm saying is, all Bharatiya languages have this same prayer, Sarvetra Sukhinas Santu. Be it in Sanskrit, it is Sarvetra Sukhinas Santu. May everybody be blissful. Or Bhavatu Sabba Mangalam, the Prakrit, in which originally Bhagavan Buddha and Bhagavan Mahavir spoke, and in every language, every. All I will say for want of time is a Doha by Kabir. First time I read it in my life, it happened to become a part of my existence. There was no separate effort required to even recite that Doha. Because Kabira says, Kabira khada bazaar mein, mange sabki khair, na kahu se dostati, na kahu se bair. It's the same prayer. And then when, as politely as possible, I do claim to have understood this, I have made it a part of my being. So I want to start a dialogue. These are two mantras, Namaste and be it Sanskrit, Sarvetra Sukhina Santu Bhavatu Sabba Mangalam. Marathi will be Sarvanna Sarvakal Sarva Shubhecha. What I have spoken in last couple of minutes itself is Indian knowledge system, and it is an actual expression of Indian knowledge system in our day-to-day behavior, in our social norms and etiquettes, and naturally and spontaneously they are part of our entire educational system. So if the exact name given to what I am supposed to talk to you is foundations, historical foundations of Indian knowledge systems, and now their current relevance in higher education. Even in saying whatever I have said in last couple of minutes, I have already told you. Let me remind you that in fact I told you the basic definition of education itself. That definition emerges from Indian knowledge system. And the world has begun to wake up to that definition and even accept that definition. After 1991, the global period is described as the period of LPG, liberalization, privatization, globalization. The entire world basically accepted a common economic system. Broadly, for want of any other words, it could be described as, say, capitalist, but especially free trade, open market, the whole world interconnected post 1991 and collapse of Soviet Union. Then it means by and large the world also accepted one political form of governance, best described as democracy by and large. And then thanks to developments in science and technology, we have genetic engineering, we have internet, we have information technology, eventually developed into World Wide Web, and now we have AI. So United Nations appointed a commission consisting of global experts in education, and the terms of reference given to this commission were study the whole earth and recommend what kind of educational system we need for this world. This world that has come together, it is integrated, it is interdependent, its economy is interlinked, its political form is essentially democracy. It has adopted this science and technology which no more knows the physical boundaries, etc. So, a commission appointed by United Nations to study what kind of educational system is required for this modern world. This committee was headed by a French educational expert named Dolores. This is known as Dolores Commission. India was a member of it, I know. Back then, 91, 92, I was still serving in the government. And I knew that India is a member. And eventually this Dolores Commission submitted a report which eventually even India accepted, because for us there was nothing separate to be accepted. Please hold your breath. Dolores Commission's recommendation about how should the entire educational system of the world be reorganized. It says the entire education in the world should be organized around the most basic principle. And my dear friends, even Dolores Commission said that one single principle around which entire educational system of the entire globe, the earth, needs to be organized, that one single educational principle, Dolores Commission said, education means knowledge of the self. And global education should be organized around this single principle, that every human being is divine, worthwhile. But every human being's self, capital S, Atma, manifests in a different way. So, boys and girls are not, the Marathi word is Chapache Ganpati. Everyone in the same mold. An educational system is not like put every boy or girl in the same mold across a conveyor belt, produce them in a factory system of education and then send them into whatever is the market for economy, etc. No. Everyone is worthwhile. And while we are all one, our manifestations differ, and each youngster should be helped to find one's own self, knowledge of the self. For example, for Sachin Tendulkar, that self manifests through batting. And for Amitabh Bachchan, it manifests through acting or voice. And for Lata Mangeshkar and Asha Bhosle, it manifests through the voice and singing. So also for each one of us. Education means knowledge of the self. This, my dear friends, is the foundational principle of Indian knowledge system, which fortunately I hope more you understand, more blissful you will begin to feel to be the material expressions of Bharatiya Sanskriti. There are two words in English. One word is discovery and the other word is invention. Discovery means a certain principle is there, whether you find it or not. The principle is there. Even before you found it, the principle was there. All you can say is, okay, you found it. So it is called discovery. For example, Newton discovered gravitational force. It's not like Newton created gravitational force. By the way, gravitational force is clearly mentioned with definition in our literature, including Vedas. But when I am explaining the word discovery, it is about principles that exist. It's only scientists who find that principles and help us understand. So Newton discovered, he didn't establish, he didn't invent gravitational principle. And then later on Einstein defined that gravitational force in a different way. It's only a different way of understanding and defining that reality. That reality is there. That is irrespective of whether you understand it or not, it is there. But Newton discovered it. So the word discovery. And then invention means using those principles that exist, using those principles to develop a certain technology, including some instrument, etc. So electricity as a principle exists in nature. But then here is Michael Faraday first, and then later on Thomas Edison, who used those principles and Michael Faraday develops a battery, and Thomas Edison develops this light that is called invention. I request you to hold your breath again, because I hope you agree with my next sentence, my dear friends, that the greatest discovery of human existence, greatest discovery of all times, the greatest discovery across all civilizations, all cultures, all branches of knowledge, all languages, all everything. My dear friends, Advaita is the greatest discovery. That is the foundation of Indian knowledge system. Knowing that we are the material expression of that same one, Advaita, Tat. It doesn't have gender. It is not he or she, it is Tat. And you are that principle. So, Advaita is the greatest discovery. If you are with me, if you are getting what I am saying, then I believe you will not only understand the next sentence, I hope you begin to feel happy, deeply happy, that the greatest discovery of human civilization is realization of Advaita, and therefore the greatest technology of human civilization is yoga. One of the fundamental definitions of science is same experiment done under same conditions must produce the same result. That is one of the definitions. Although I need to tell you that science has even moved beyond this definition. Even science has begun to say that no two experiments can ever be same. So there never is a question of same conditions. So where is the question of same results? But I am right now choosing for a moment not to go into quantum theory. What I just spoke is quantum theory. But to start with, one of the basic definitions of science, same experiment done in same conditions must produce the same result. So let's say the refractive index of light is 1.47. It is denoted by the Greek letter mu. It's like m. And when light rays change a medium, they bend at a particular angle and then they emerge out of that medium. Science found out that the refractive index of light is 1.47. Okay, then science means that it will remain 1.47 wherever you are, wherever, then it is science. Whether you perform this experiment in Paris or in Pune or in Vadgaon Budruk, etc. Same experiment done under same conditions must produce the same result. Okay? It is on that count that yoga is world's greatest invention. So Advaita, realization of Advaita is the greatest discovery of human civilization. And then how to realize this Advaita? Is it something abstract? Is it something superstitious? Then our Indian knowledge system, Indian civilization says no. This is yoga. You do it, you also will realize that oneness. Okay, sit still. Let the spine be straight. Just close your eyes. So the mind and the pancha jnanendriya that are moving outside, just shut them. Go inside. And then deeper you keep going inside. And then how to do that? Just pay attention to breathing. That becomes the starting point. But then follow yama, niyama, start doing asanas, then augment it with pranayama, then your external indriyas will automatically begin to go internal and deeper, that becomes pratyahara, and then you automatically begin to meditate, dhyana. Once you consciously meditate, then it is dharana. And then dhyana becomes a part of your being, then it is dhyana. Finally to reach samadhi, where you finally understand this oneness. Everyone can do that. It is not sort of subjective. Therefore, I describe Advaita as the greatest discovery of entire human civilization, and then how to realize that Advaita, developing yoga as a technology. Just think about it. I'll share one very small example with you. During Corona period, one American scientist wrote a research paper and I happened to read it. This doctor says, I have found out a method of confronting Corona. He says, Corona mainly attacks our immunity system. So we can face Corona if we strengthen our immunity system. He says, I have found out a method of breathing to strengthen our immunity system. He claims he found it. So he gives the name cardiac breathing. He calls it cardiac breathing. Okay. What is it that he claims to have found out? And then he calls cardiac breathing. He says, exhale deeply, fully, and then close one nostril. Then breathe in with one. Slowly, deeply. Then close that. Breathe out with the second one. Those of you who are smiling, I would say they are on the right track of path. Because they already know that this is the most basic of pranayama. But the guy claims he developed it. Look at plagiarism. Chori. And he says he claims. This is the most basic one. This is only the first step of pranayama is just be aware of breathing. Just pay attention to breathing. Once you do that, then probably the next stage is deep breathing. Dirgha Shvasan. That consciously, only slowly deep breathing. Okay. And then it is called either Sukha Pranayam or Anulom Vilom, or it is also called Sahaja Pranayam, and the best scientific name happens to be Nadi Shuddhi Pranayam. That this pranayam begins to purify our material existence. You do that and see, you will automatically begin to find your own path in life, and that begins to come from within you. So yoga. This, my dear friends, is the historical foundation of Indian knowledge system. And in the process, I have already stated its current relevance even in higher education. That in fact, entire education, not only India, for the world, should be based on yoga. In fact, best shot would be yoga introduced during childhood, during school education. Even our educational system traditionally meant that when the student joins a Gurukul, the first thing that Guru would teach is how to meditate. Do regular yoga. And then rest of the things. Because regular yoga means developing your body, mind, intellect and soul. Yoga means developing excellent health even at material level, physical level, excellent health. Yoga means functioning of the brain to keep improving and at its best. Yoga means ability to concentrate. Yoga means capacity for memory. So first thing is start doing that. Okay? And then based on your knowledge of the self, choose your path in life. So one may choose after 10, say some common basic education until 10th, but then maybe we decide based on our knowledge of the self as to which branch I pick up, which suits my being, myself, my knowledge, S capital, that do I like languages? Then maybe I'll pick up arts. Do I like social sciences? Is my mind naturally drawn to say history, political science, sociology, anthropology, so on and so forth? Then I will join the arts faculty. But then is my mind drawn to say figures and accounts and say management and business and economics and statistics, probably then if I understand that, then I will join commerce faculty. Same goes for science faculty. Same goes for whether I will pick up the combination PCB, physics, chemistry, biology, or PCM, physics, chemistry, maths, and then accordingly whether I will appear for say respectively NEET or CET to join the medical or engineering faculty, all based on my knowledge of the self. And then through that I will begin to develop myself. That will be the Indian knowledge system and its relevance in higher education. We need a complete transformation, even modernization, based on Indian knowledge systems. For want of time, I will now absolutely force myself to just share last 2 or 3 quick points. They are interconnected, but for want of time, I need to make them rather quickly. First of all, try and understand the most basic definition of what do we mean when we say Indian knowledge systems. Okay? So for want of time, I need to summarize it, but I can state in one line. Okay? These are methods and conclusions of pursuit of knowledge developed in India. Not only geographically in India, qualitatively they are Indian, qualitatively, culturally, historically, that there is a very disciplined system of pursuit of knowledge. That system is Indian knowledge system. So, 4 Vedas, 4 Upavedas, so many Upanishads, so many Puranas, and then what we call as Itihas, that is Ramayana and Mahabharata, and entire Sanskrit tradition, also the Prakrit tradition of Gautam Buddha and all Buddha literature, all Jatakas, all Suttas. Again, Sutta is Sutra, but there is Mahaparinibbana Sutta. So Buddha, towards the end of his physical material life, stated some truths that are summarized in this Mahaparinibbana Sutta. Then there are Nikaya Grantha, it is Laghu Nikaya, Majjhim, that is Madhyam, the middle Nikaya, and Digha, that is lengthy Nikaya, and so on and so forth. So also extremely rich, deep and profound Jain literature, philosophy, Agama Granthas, and Jain all philosophy is in Sanskrit and Prakrit both. So Indian knowledge system would mean this utterly mind-boggling, rich and diverse tradition, the method of pursuit of knowledge. I have to tell you briefly that it's a very scientific method, but then as I need to force myself to come to the concluding part only for want of time, I'm thankful to you that I'm receiving those vibes that you people are listening all this very intently, but we need to keep the time limit, so I'm going to force myself to just mention 2 last critical points. To make one point, I will mention the names of Maharshi Panini and Maharshi Patanjali again. Maharshi Panini wrote Ashtadhyayi, which I already told you. These are not sutras of Sanskrit language alone. These are sutras of the very phenomenon called language. And today I will only point finger towards only one concept. That concept is called Bija Dhvani. Bija Dhvani, that Maharshi Panini, along including all his predecessors, etc., as I already told you, they studied the sound. Language is basically the sounds, phonetic. That is all that even modern linguistics says. But again, for want of time, I have to summarize in one line that entire modern linguistics is a direct product of study of Sanskrit. Right now, I'm sorry, I can't explain it in fuller details, but starting with William Jones around 1776 and the French linguist with whom modern linguistics is supposed to have begun is Ferdinand de Saussure. All of them deeply studied Sanskrit, deeply studied the composition, only to understand that it's not only about one particular language called Sanskrit, it is about the very phenomenon called language itself. Currently, world's greatest living linguist is this person Noam Chomsky, who is Professor Emeritus in Harvard University for the subject linguistics, and actually, speaking of political ideology, he is leftist. But he is deeply into linguistics enough and with intellectual integrity to say that as a language, Sanskrit is world's greatest language, world's most scientific language. And he says the architecture of Sanskrit language is not only about one language called Sanskrit. He says the foundational architecture of Sanskrit language is the architecture of the phenomenon called language. Okay, it could be Chinese language, Japanese language, it could be like English, etc. They are after all derivatives of Greek and Latin, and to say the least, there are close connections between Sanskrit and Greek and Latin. I will also not go deeper into the issues of linguistics right now. I am just picking up this concept called Bija Dhvani, that our Rishis, and let me say this, that our ancient Rishis were scientists, and like most of the contemporary scientists are modern day Rishis. Like a couple of months ago, we lost Dr. Jayan Naralikar. A couple of days ago, we lost Madhavrao Gadgil, and so on and so forth. They are modern Rishis, pursuing knowledge, pursuing truth. So our ancient Rishis understood these sounds, studied them, and came out with this profound concept of Bija Dhvani, mind you, Bija Dhvani. I have to tell you that even modern linguistics needs to go deep into this concept. Modern linguistics, especially as defined in the West with capital W, they just think it is some random sounds when put together, assume the form of words, etc. Bharatiya Bhasha Shastra says no, the sounds themselves have innate meaning. Each sound innately expresses a certain meaning. Now with modern, say, phonetics or study of sound as one of the energy form, and these are sound waves, dhvani lahari, even modern physics has begun to study that and say that particular sound waves affect us in a particular way. So this concept of Bija Dhvani, and there are such hundreds of directions in which we need to undertake modern research and development. Going to the root concepts, actually the closest English word for Bija Dhvani also is root sounds. Like I just say, this sound from my throat, is only a sound. For Western linguistic, it doesn't mean anything. But our ancestors did find that each dhvani, the sound u and ma, together making om. And world over, there are researches going on the phonetic quality of om and how even the pronunciation of om affects us, even at material level. Correct scientific pronunciation of om affects the brain, the heart, the lungs, kidneys, everything. This is only at material level, not to keep going deeper and deeper. So when it comes to linguistics and Bija Dhvani, similarly I need to summarize that modern research needs to be undertaken even in the field of yoga. Say the very concept of Kundalini Shakti, which rests at the base called Mooladhara Chakra, and even the concepts that as that energy which is 2.5 circles resting in Mooladhara Chakra, and then the technology developed to awaken that Kundalini and it begins to rise from, say, after Mooladhara it is Swadhisthana Chakra, and then Anahata Chakra and Vishuddha Chakra and Ajna Chakra, only to finally reach what is called as the Sahasrahara Chakra. This is very deeply defined, but we need to also undertake modernmost of researches in this science and technology. That, my dear friends, is my last point. That fortunately we have had scientists even in modern times who applied the modern principles and methods of science for search for truth. Like Jagdish Chandra Basu, who discovered that even plants are alive, that plants also have consciousness, and therefore even plants have emotions. They respond to us and human beings. So when Jagdish Chandra Basu found this out, he was asked, how did you even find this out? How did you even think of this concept? He said, I did nothing separate. My civilization tells me for thousands of years that consciousness is all pervading. The Sat, Chit and Ananda. He says, all I did is apply that principle in modern research and methodology to actually find out and prove that plants are alive, they are conscious, they have emotions. So also, we had a great chemistry scientist in Prafulla Chandra Ray. He actually wrote about a 700-page book in pre-independence times. Those are the reasons our scientists remain neglected, along with some other reasons in post-independent times also. But the name of Prafulla Chandra Ray's book is Hindu Chemistry. That's the name, Hindu Chemistry. That how fundamental it is India that developed this science called chemistry. I could go on this way about even mathematics. Please remember, my dear friends, mathematics is India's contribution to world civilization. You may call it algebra, you may call it geometry, then that may develop into trigonometry and then calculus. It is all India's contribution to world civilization. Discovery of zero, decimal system, and it just goes on. This is true for astronomy, metallurgy, and so many branches, including, like I already said, chemistry, etc. Then, of course, among the greatest of the examples is the greatest 20th century mathematician, Shri Ramanujan. To our misfortune, he had a life of only 32 years. This was the first quarter of the 20th century. And looking at his talent, he was then picked up at Cambridge University, where he found his guru in Hardy, the great mathematician Hardy. But Srinivas Ramanujan developed all modern mathematics. He wrote many notebooks in pencil. His notebooks are still being studied, mind you. I need to summarize it very quickly, hoping and praying that you people pick up that point very quickly. Theory of relativity and the quantum theory are both perfectly scientific, but the fundamental conclusion of both these theories is opposite of each other. Again, to cut a long story short, theory of relativity essentially means everything in the world is well ordered. For everything in the world there is a cause-effect relationship, and therefore things are predetermined, they are going to unfold in one particular way. That is the scientific conclusion of theory of relativity, which is a perfectly scientific theory. Quantum theory, again, perfectly scientific, but it says nothing is certain. Nothing can be predicted. Nothing is well ordered. It is only random things, impermanence that keeps combining, and the rest of the universe unfolds and it progresses the way it progresses. So for last at least 106 years, I am being very specific, because the issue I just defined for you can be pointed to the year 1920. Theory of relativity and quantum theory, both scientific but reaching conclusions which are completely contradictory to each other. So modern science has been grappling with the problem of how to reconcile, how to solve this seeming contradiction. Okay, modern physics says a theory called string theory, M theory, superbrain theory, whatever. I'm restricting all of it. But the point is, mathematics that Srinivas Ramanujan developed is supposed to be the mathematics of this, how to reconcile theory of relativity and quantum theory. In search for answer, even Einstein had developed a theory called the unified field theory. In latter years, that unified field theory and the search for that, something that unites the field of knowledge, that came to be called as theory of everything, TOE, theory of everything, okay? May I then conclude that Vedanta is the theory of everything. That finally Vedanta which says one, and you are that one, but you need to find it out. Srinivas Ramanujan's mathematics expresses that in mathematical form. Hence the last point is about AI. And for want of time I have to tell you that the language best suited for AI is Sanskrit. But therefore we need to study it deeply. We need to study Sanskrit on one side and AI on the other side, and thus develop our own programs which will guide the whole world. So in addition to this seminar, I pray let us dedicate ourselves to pursuit of knowledge and therefore restoring India to its original great place. Thank you and all the very best.